Great. Okay. So do I start with the script?
Yes.
Here. Pursuant to the Ralph M. Brown Act, provisions under Assembly Bill 361, which went into effect on October 1st, 2021. This meeting will be conducted as a teleconference and a physical location will not be provided. The public is invited to participate telephonically.
Chair Ash,
Yeah.
if you like, we can just you can ask Matt to run the video.
Okay.
And it'll go over all that, so you don't have to read it all.
Perfect. So where do you want me to start? Just convene the meeting?
Yeah, convene meeting, blue font, and then
Okay.
have Matt kick off the video for you.
We now call this meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee to order. Please give your attention to a short video. Matt, please play the video. Thank you.
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom meeting pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being live streamed on the CCTA website. The chair will call upon members, staff, and other speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members participating by Zoom wishing to speak should physically raise their hand and unmute their mic when called upon. Members should mute their mics when done speaking. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the Raise Hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. After 3 minutes, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Participants via phone will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice for public comment guidelines are printed on the meeting agenda. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Okay, thank you for that. And Tareen, please conduct roll call.
Okay, Member Bankert,
Present.
Member Carr,
Present.
Member Chahal, did not see. Member Escobar, did not see. Member Hammond,
Present.
Member Hurley,
Present.
Member Miller,
Present.
Member Powell's is not present. Member Rosenberg is not present. Member Vega is not present. Vice Chair Linder, Vice Chair Linder.
Present, sorry.
Thank you. Chair Ash.
Present.
Okay, we do not have a quorum. We have 7 members present with members Chahal, Esquivel, Powell's, Rosenberg, and Vega absent. So if you'd like, we could defer the consent calendar approval to the end of the meeting and see if we get one more member.
Yes, I guess.
And just move on, or we could do public comment first, but if we don't have the 8th member by the next item, we could defer it.
Great. The next item on the agenda is public comment. I just lost something on my screen. Sorry. Tareen, do we have any written public comment?
No written public comment.
Is there any member of the public wishing to speak during public comment on an item that is not part of the agenda? If so, please raise your hand and staff or I will call upon you. The next item on the agenda is sorry.
No, we have no verbal comment either.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, which includes the summary of actions from June 22nd, 2022, and acknowledge of the member attendance log. We will postpone that vote until a quorum is reached or until the next meeting. Okay. Scrolling through. Okay, we will now move to the regular agenda items. We have two informational items on the agenda this evening. The first item will be introduced by Matt Kelly to provide an overview of the Authority Board Workshop held in Lafayette on September 15th and 16th, 2022, which focused on the changing landscape of transportation and developing a vision for the future of mobility in Contra Costa County. So, Matt, would you like to take that staff report away?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Ash. Just as an introduction, from time to time, we don't do it on a regular schedule. We do have board retreats, or in this case, a board workshop. They only retreated to Lafayette at the city library, so it wasn't quite a retreat. But it was a good session for our board and for the attendees. We did this at this time really to set the stage for our countywide transportation plan, which we will begin updating kind of at the end of this year, early next year. You guys will be a part of that in terms of providing input on that. You've already provided input on the building blocks for the countywide transportation plan and the action plans. This was really to get the board, our board, on board with the next CTP, and really to start a conversation on what is the future of transportation in Contra Costa. What is CCTA's role in that? What are the local jurisdictions' roles in that? And how can we adapt to the changing transportation landscape? We invited all of our board members, the city managers from the 20 jurisdictions, including the county, and we also invited the chairs of all of our advisory committees. So Chair Ash was in attendance, and it was good to have him there. And then there were some other staff members from local cities, transit agencies, and other groups. So it was a good event. It looks like we've got a quorum now, but I think we'll continue with our items and go back to the action item at the end. Our executive director, Tim Hale, led he led the presentations. It was facilitated by a gentleman named Bill Higgins, who works for the California League of Cities, CalCog, which is basically a statewide group representing local cities across the state. And so he was a really good facilitator, and it involved these presentations that Tim gave. Tim gave a series of presentations that were followed by small group discussions. So this group of about 60 or so folks broke up into smaller groups to kind of discuss what Tim had presented. So what I'm going to present to you today is a summary. Tim couldn't be here tonight. He's on a plane somewhere. But I'm going to basically give you a condensed version of the probably hundreds of slides he gave, just kind of focusing on the highlights, and then talk about some of the ideas that were thrown around. And then Chair Ash and I had talked about, doing a kind of a goals and priorities discussion at our first meeting of the new year. At least we consider September the new year around here. And we thought this would lead into that discussion nicely. You can see kind of where the authority is heading, and then where you guys might want to head over the next year or so. So I'll kick off my presentation here. Share my screen. Are you seeing the slides, or do I need to swap?
Swap.
I think I just always swap. I think every time you need to ask. The answer is yes. Okay, so the
Somebody
initial,
needs to mute, I think.
sorry.
I think
There's
they
noise
muted.
coming. And Matt, you still need to swap the slide or the slideshow. We're still seeing all the slides to the left.
What about now? Did it change?
No,
Okay, I'm going to exit, stop share, and start this again. Let's see. Sorry about that. All right. Come on. Oh, I love technical difficulties. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna try one more time.
If it was easy, anyone could do it.
Well, the problem is I think I feel like I need to have 3 screens going at all times, and sometimes that just, it's a screen or two too many. All right, let's try this again. Are you seeing anything now?
no, nothing.
Okay, this is
You want me to run it, Matt?
I think, okay, hold on one second, Terry Ann. I may take you up on that. Yeah, this is. I think this is going to work. How about that?
Yes, looks great.
Whew. Okay, sorry about that. Awkward. But you've all seen it before. Okay, so Tim kicked off the presentation in the morning of the first day by talking about kind of the history of Measure J. I'm not going to get into that really because we've gone over with this group before, but I will start with kind of where we're at today. Now my only problem is advancing the slides. There we go. So the Measure J expenditure plan, since it was approved in 2004 and implemented in 2009, it's got about 2 billion in it, and you can see here how it's broken down. We've got $500 million going to, or sorry, $500 million going to highways, $500 million to local streets, $500 million to transit, and then the rest divided out into rail, ped bike, and some other categories, HOV lanes, and so forth. So that's kind of how Measure J is on the project side, and I'll get into the programs a little later. But here's looking at Measure J sales tax revenues over the years. You can see it when it was approved in 2004, started collecting revenues in 2009. It's been growing ever since. At that vertical dashed line is today. You'll see there's some weird blippage going on before that. That is the recession, or sorry, the pandemic, and then the where we thought we were going to go in dark blue after the pandemic, and then where we kind of ended up going and realigned our forecasts after the pandemic in our 2022 strategic plan. And that blip that I was referring to is that those increased sales tax revenues that we've seen in the last 2 years, including the one that just ended in July. And then kind of going through 2034 when Measure J expires. So that's part of the conversation, that this doesn't go on forever. So just a quick look at what Measure J has done here in Central County. I'm not going to go through all these projects, but just a flavor for what Measure J has done. A lot of the elected officials and city managers at the workshop were new, so it was kind of reminding them on really these big projects that you've seen around the county were brought to you by Measure J, including the Caldecott Fourth Bore, eBart, things like that, and here in Central County. And then here's how the programs are broken up. 60% of Measure J or 57% is programs, and those capital projects I just showed you, they may be done, in the next year or two, and some of them are already, complete. But the programs will go through 2034, and that funds our ped bike facilities, our ferry service, our bus service, our local streets and roads maintenance, which you guys oversee, and then other programs, including paratransit and others. So that changing transportation landscape, that was really kind of the focus of the workshop, and how do we, what is going on with transportation and how do we address it in the future? So just looking at the growth in Contra Costa, the Bay Area, and then the kind of new lens that things are being looked at around here, which is the Northern California mega region. The 9-county Bay Area isn't a vacuum. There's all these counties, outside, 12 additional counties outside that are affecting the way we operate. So as you can see, there's a huge potential population growth there to 24 million in the mega region. And that's being looked at, BART is doing a study looking at the mega region and how a second bay crossing would affect rail service serving those 21 counties. So there's, even BART is looking beyond the Bay Area.
Matt, for clarification on that slide, if I can chime in.
Yeah.
Is this study pre-COVID, post-COVID? Because I know a lot of people, they said, left at least the city and stuff and moved out here. So I don't know if that accelerated these numbers or not. So.
Yeah, I would call it COVID agnostic. It was done so the population forecasts were definitely assuming that by 2050 we'd be beyond effects from COVID.
Right.
Yeah, but the 2020 numbers they are census based.
Okay.
So basically they think after 2030 we're going to start growing kind of at a faster pace than we are right now. So one of the things we're facing and need to address is a growing aging population. I'm not sure why. The other housing is sorry, that wasn't the slide I was expecting, but one of the things we need to address is housing. We're not a transportation agency, but something you guys are dealing with is housing. It's part of the growth management program, but we don't have a lot of control over it at CCTA, but the cities, the places that you represent do. So how do we address housing, which affects, all these things? It affects transportation, it affects seniors, it affects, equity, priority communities, it affects how we do business. So the new workplace, people are working from home. How do we account for that going forward? Where are people going to be in the future? And when are they going to travel? How is traffic changing? We've been looking at traffic trends since kind of the beginning of the shelter in place in March 2020. We've seen that midday traffic is all of a sudden a new peak, and it kind of merges with the evening peak. Weekends are much busier. On transit, BART is recovering much faster on the weekends and midday than it is during its traditional peaks. So there's a lot of different stuff going on. Looking at BART ridership trends, comparing April 2019 with this past April. And you'll see Contra Costa now has a higher share of overall BART ridership. So where it may have dropped in other places in San Francisco or Alameda County, Contra Costa ridership has either grown or remained stable, or stabler, let's say. There's less riders from Contra Costa going into downtown San Francisco and downtown Oakland. Before, that was the majority of BART's ridership was going into downtown San Francisco at 7:30 a.m. That was it. Now there's a lot less going into San Francisco. There's a lot less going into Oakland, and a lot more staying within Contra Costa. So that speaks to, that people are maybe using BART, to get from, say, downtown Concord to downtown Walnut Creek, or something like that, and just moving within Contra Costa County. And these are trends that we're watching, but we don't know where they're going to end up. They could change in the next year. So we're trying to, just kind of keep track of where things are going. And then there's millennials, what are they going to do? And now there's the Gen Z, and they're doing different things than millennials. So, some factoids about, what younger people are going to do in terms of car ownership in the future. And then just understanding travel behavior in general. That's something that CCTA realizes we need to understand what people are thinking and not just what they're doing today. Because what they are doing today may not be what they plan on doing in the future. So we've done some travel behavior surveys, and we've shared the results of the 681 with you in the past. But we've now done it on I-80 and the State Route 4 242 corridors, really just to ask people what are you going to be doing in the future? And this is just a snapshot. This is looking at the 680 corridor. Are you more likely to carpool? Are you more likely to stay in your car by yourself? Are you more likely to telecommute? And it gives us an idea of what things may look like in the future, and what people are actually interested in that they may not be interested in today if things were different, say. Climate change is another thing we're having to look at, how that affects transportation, how it affects, climate change is affecting the need for planning for emergency evacuation and response. We're seeing what Florida's doing right now. I thought the other day, wow, I wonder what it'd be like to be the transportation planner for Lee County in Southwest Florida. They must be pretty busy right now, and that's something that CCTA hasn't had much of a role in, nor has there been a request for us to be involved in that. But now we've got cities that are trying to think, how are we going to evacuate our residents? And they're looking to CCTA, how do we plan for this? So it's something we're needing to think about all of a sudden. And then transit recovery, I was just talking about it. Transit is nowhere near back to its pre-pandemic levels. How do we get it there and get our transit operators back kind of, not that they were ever in the black, but less in the red. And then the age-old question, how do we bridge that first and last mile gap? It seems to be, everybody's either needs to get to transit or needs to get to their job, and it may not be that far, but it's far enough that they need to, they need a mode to get them there. So how do we approach that? Safety is a huge question. How are we going to improve safety around the county? And then EVs, how do we address EV wave, and now it's a requirement. We know there's going to be no more gas-powered vehicles sold in California before too long. How do we plan for that? And then the conversation, and like I mentioned, we had breakout groups to discuss all of these things. So there's a ton of ideas that came out of those. Ideas were being thrown around that I've never heard in transportation meetings before. So there's a real appetite for change from kind of the local leaders. They understand things are not status quo, the same things, the highway widenings, the things like that, that might have worked 20, 30 years ago, don't work today, and they may not even be feasible today. So, what do we do, and what does CCA, what is CCTA's role in that? And so, CCTA has somewhat limited function. We are a congestion management agency. That's what the state considers us. Within Contra Costa, we collect the transportation sales tax. And this kind of outlines what we've been over the years. Tim, our executive director, broke it down by kind of generations of CCTA. First, we had Measure C, that was CCTA 1.0. Then we started delivering projects once we had that revenue source. We started extending BART and working with kind of transportation and transit incentive programs, 511 Contra Costa, things like that. And then after Measure J passed, we were in CCTA 3.0. We built the Caldegot Tunnel. We extended BART, but we started getting a little more innovative and started thinking about technology and set up Gomentum Station and things like that. And now what do we do beyond today, CCTA 4.0? So we want to build on past successes, but really build that innovation. Do we branch out into public-private partnerships? Do we start operating and maintaining the system, which we've never done before? And do we deploy our own mobility solutions out there? So there's a lot of things to think about, and it may require changing our organizational definition so that we can be running some of these mobility programs. So that was something that was a new topic. And here's kind of how those, I'm not going to get into the details of this, but Tim kind of laid out how, the things we're doing today could change between CCTA 3.0 and 4.0. That's a lot of new ideas that aren't being done anywhere. So it's kind of a whole new realm for us to consider how we do business. And just as an example of one of those new 4.0 concepts is, could CCTA be the managing entity for an accessible transportation system around the county? I think you've heard about our accessible transportation master plan. We looked at, all there's 19 or so entities providing paratransit services around the county. And how could CCTA, in working with these nonprofits, be the managing entity of such a program? So there's not these 19 groups, it's one umbrella group working with all these nonprofits, all the scales of efficiencies there. So is that something that is in the future for CCTA? That's just a part of the conversation and an example of how CCTA could look in the future. That is the end of my presentation. I'm going to stop my share here. That was really the topics that were covered, but like I said, those breakout groups went into a lot more detail. We'll have a summary of all those breakout group comments that we can provide to you. But really, it's just, where have we been? What is the future, and how can CCTA and Contra Costa be a part of it? So I'd be happy to take any questions. And Jared, if you have anything you'd like to share from your experience there, please do.
Yeah, no, I would say it was a great job by staff. I think you guys made it very interactive in taking feedback from people and matching us with people from all over the county for different perspectives. And so that was great. It wasn't just somebody telling us this is the information. It was engaging all that real life feedback. The other thing that I think was interesting, and you heard Brentwood and Oakley maybe said something different, but there was a big focus on 680. The 680 corridor, and how with the exodus from people in the city, the expected change around the 680 corridor as a place for smaller campus size offices, and possibly some increases, and people were starting to see facilities rented out, office space, and how is that going to change the makeup on that road? And that was a big part of the conversation. And I think it's just good for all of us to think about, how is transportation going to change? How many of us are working from home part-time or full-time, right? And changed our commute structure. And that feedback from all of us is important, right?
Yeah. I think Tim showed a slide of a parking garage that's now been converted into apartments, that's the kind of things that people are thinking about, like, how can, in these various corridors, and looking at it kind of at a more corridor level, how can these corridors modernize and adapt to what people are doing and where they want to be, and they don't all want to go into San Francisco every day. They want to remain a part of their communities, but still have the option to go into the office or commute on BART, but do it in a way that's maybe not like the old 9 to 5 that we used to see. So I thought, it was, I sat at a couple of tables, and Jared's right, it was interesting to have all these different perspectives at the same table, and some people weren't speaking the same, there were definitely different perspectives, just like you'd expect in Contra Costa. Things that were coming out of, from East County weren't the same as West County, but I think everybody agreed that we need to change, that we can't just keep doing things the same way. So it was really interesting to hear all these ideas and things that you don't expect to hear at a transportation meeting, talking more about land use and things like that.
Matt, it's Yolanda.
Hi,
If
Yolanda.
I could ask a question. Hey, so was CCTA at the table for these discussions?
Yes, Tim facilitated basically the entire thing. And then we sat at the different breakout groups to kind of hear. So we developed the content. Tim shared it. It was really just facilitated by an outsider. So, because really we did it mostly for ourselves. So we know where to go with our countywide plan update, and if we are going to change our structure or something like that, or if we do need to go and get policies changed in Sacramento to give us the ability to do some of these things.
Yeah, because my comment has always been, with the circulation committee for Lafayette, is that to look at the model that Walnut Creek has, which is a intercity bus, which is free, so that you can utilize it. Although I think that needs to be a mindset for people, because as Lafayette continues to grow with the housing, with the traffic, closer closer to BART, so you could always go within walking distance. I'm still concerned that the public transportation, the bus system in particular, isn't paying attention. And so in Lafayette, we still don't have a free riding within Lafayette, and with all this housing, with the concern about water, where's the water going to come for all these new homes that are being built, and with this younger population. So that's why I asked if CCTA was at the table.
Sorry, did you mean County Connection?
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, they were definitely there. They have a new executive director, Bill Churchill, who was there, and he's been really involved in our planning, and they had a couple other staff members there. But so the things you were talking about came up loud and clear. Free transit, more transit, more shuttles. I'm looking at the notes. I got a draft of the comments today, and there was a whole lot of conversation about that. And so County Connection heard it, but we heard it. It came up over and over.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm speaking free transportation within the city. If I'm going from Lafayette to Concord, I expect to pay.
Yes.
But if I'm being hammered with, go green, go green, go green, and I have to wait an hour and a half for a bus, I'm not going green.
Yeah. And we know BART is, potentially reducing parking at some of its stations and as part of its development. So those are solutions that we're going to have to come up with in order to, just really move people around towns, not just get them, to the next campus.
I can tell you as a Walnut Creek Transportation Commissioner, we pay for that bus, and we were the ones that went to Contra Costa Connection and asked them to run it because we didn't have the capability, but we paid for the physical buses using, and it was done, I don't remember how many years ago, but it was done raising the parking rates, which is why some of the parking meters are more expensive in Walnut Creek, is that's funds that shuttle. So Lafayette should look at.
Yeah, nothing's free. Nothing's free. So yeah.
Yeah, but I think I agree. Those are good models. They're doing it also out to Shadelands from Treat or from Pleasant Hill BART. So hopefully we can see that expanded.
And that's a tax on the businesses in the Shadelands that covers it. So it's free ridership, but it's paid for in a special tax district.
Yeah. And Bishop.
Well, and of course, the intention is to keep the money within Walnut Creek. So I understand that. I just think that Walnut Creek is the model for intercity transportation. So.
Matt, it's Michael. How much discussion at this event was there about VMT? It's something CARB has always been interested in, has never come close to having its targets met, and are actually trying to further reduce them to get closure on its upcoming scoping plan.
Yeah, so VMT did come up. I think the room, well, in Tim's slideshow, he did have a few slides about VMT just to reinforce the fact that it is, the rule we live under now with CEQA. But I think the room realized that it's an issue. And I did actually hear people say, well, the only way to really reduce VMT is to, reduce the distances that people are having to travel. And so it's all about land use and location and giving people alternatives to driving. And so I think that's the, and CCTA is actually in the middle of developing a VMT mitigation bank program or mitigation program. It may be a bank. So it's something we're definitely thinking about. But it's good to get the local agencies thinking about it, because sometimes they don't think about it as a local issue, and it's more of a regional issue like greenhouse gas. But it is something that the cities have to deal with every new housing and commercial development they get these days. So yeah, it did come up, not as much as some other things, but it did come up.
Hey, Matt, if I may, that what you just said kind of something I've been thinking about this whole time. You talk about the roles and the authority of the CCTA, what it has been in the past and what might be in the future. And, housing, development, and transit are all interconnected. I think you said something where you guys see it from a higher perspective than the local agencies. And I like where the conversation was going about what is the role of the CCTA, and getting more involved in educating, getting involved in how we develop things. We all want transit, but you've got to have the density and the proximity to support it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, how can we, fix that as a county, with between transportation and the local development? It's there's a fine line there, because all the cities want the authority to do that, and we're trying to gently push them in the direction of maybe densifying around transit and things like that. But it's a touchy subject. So anything we can do to advance that conversation and get people thinking about how you could coordinate that better is important. And I mean, you guys are part of the growth management program, which is really like we're really the only county that's really trying to link the two, and we're still far away, so it's like, the fact that people are even talking about it is important, because it's such a touchy subject.
Yeah, it is. Like, I'll use San Ramon's example. We don't have much of a transit hub. We have the transit center, there in Camino Ramon. And I was excited when I saw housing going in right across the street, but then it's like 404 single family homes. I'm like, good job, guys. You lost an opportunity there.
Hey, Jared, I got my hand up if you don't mind.
Sorry, go ahead, Ed.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out also that I got involved with the Planning Commission locally as well. One of the things you were saying, this was sort of leading the land use pieces that are, tentacles back into transportation and vice versa. And one of the things I guess I was just going to say is, one of the most frustrating, challenging things is that mass transit in the form of like either, like another arm of, gotta love it when the kids come in right then. In the form of either like additional extensions of BART arms or things like that, and or widening a road, a surface street, so that buses could travel, or there could be a high occupancy lane or something like on Ignacio Valley, is challenging when you've gotten property values to the level that you do. Eminent domain becomes completely infeasible to even just say, well, how about if we expand that road by just the size of a half of a lane? You're still talking about, $1 billion here and $1 billion there, trying to grab a couple lanes of, a couple of miles of highway or of surface street, just because of the value of the land underneath. Sorry, I talked too long, but that was really what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, I think the conversation is, how can we take that existing footprint of Ignacio or, San Pablo or something else and do more with it?
Has anybody explored like roads that are on top of other roads? No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't here for the earthquake, so I'll retract that statement.
Maybe in Kansas.
Not even. Austin looked at something like that, and it almost immediately creates a slum on either side of the road. The elevated, the noise, it's usually a disaster, even if you're not in an earthquake zone.
And it took Boston, what, 2 decades to do the big dig, and it has its own challenges as well. Anyway,
But it's DC's had that problem too, and it's made a big difference. Like the Boston Big Dig though did help. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay. Do I, Terrian, do I go to the next spot here then?
Yeah, I just would like to announce that we don't have any written comment and I don't see any public in the audience, so no public comment.
Okay, great. That would have been my next question. Okay, does anyone have a summary report of the CCTA meetings in September?
We can move next to the regular agenda item B.
Okay. Where are you? Okay, sorry, got it. I skipped ahead then. The next item on the agenda will be introduced by Matt Kelly to lead a discussion on the goals, objectives, and priorities of the Citizens Advisory Committee over the next year. And before I turn that over to Matt, this came from my conversations as becoming chair when I got to speak to Ed, who was our previous chair, and Claire, who's now our vice chair. And I said, you know, what is everybody's priorities and why are we all here? We're all here for different reasons, representing different parts of the county. And that led into, how do we do a priority session? How do we take down, what do you all want to accomplish in the next 12 months, 2 years of your service? And how do we maybe help look at that and direct our agenda to achieving some of those goals where possible? So Matt has embraced that and spent a lot of time putting together a little deck and helping to lead a discussion. But this is a discussion where everybody should weigh in, because the question is, what is your priorities? So Matt, please.
How is my share screen looking?
Looks good.
Okay, wow. I'm getting better at it. Okay, yeah, thanks, Chair Ash. No, I think this is a really good idea to just kind of have a discussion about what you guys would like from us. Staff is always trying to put together agenda items, you know, beyond the checklists, and knowing exactly what you guys want makes it easier for us. And then, you know, we can create new agenda items that haven't been there before. We can, you know, it's your committee, you have some flexibility, you have some things you have to do, and then some things that, you know, you can kind of embrace should you be interested. So I'm just going to walk through just a few slides just to maybe get you guys thinking about some potential ideas. So just a little bit of background on why you're here. As part of Measure J, it established the growth management program, or actually expanded the growth management program. And the Citizens Advisory Committee is kind of the oversight committee of the GMP to make sure that our 19 cities in the county are being compliant with the growth management program, are actively participating in the growth management program, and that they are, and that's done through the checklist. I think everybody here has seen the checklist, but if not, you'll be seeing them soon. And that's how the 20 jurisdictions get their return to source funds, which I had to do some research for the board workshop, and found that we've distributed $200 million to the 20 local agencies since 2009, just in return to source funds. We've funded lots of other projects, but this is money that they can spend however they want on local streets and roads, on bike paths, on transit infrastructure, things like that. So you guys have an important function here.
Matt, can I interrupt a second?
Yeah.
I have searched for bylaws for the Citizens Advisory Committee. The only thing that I can find is one from 2006, which was very vague as to what the roles and responsibilities of the CAC really are. Can you or Terry Ann find an up-to-date one and maybe send it out to each of us?
Yeah, how about after the meeting, when we send out the PowerPoints, we can send a copy of the bylaws.
Perfect. Great, thanks.
I probably could have included them in the packet today, but I didn't think about that. So
And
that's
they
a
are
good reminder.
They are from 2006, but I will send those out as soon as the meeting's over.
So the questions we're kind of asking today is, what are your goals? Individual members representing, your individual jurisdictions. And what are the priority topics that staff should be addressing? We want to keep you educated on what's going on at CCTA. We want you to be aware of what's going on in the state and the region in terms of transportation and the related, as I think Ed said earlier, the tentacles, land use, housing, technology, all these different things that find their way into the transportation landscape. And as a countywide agency, how do you want us to do that? Should we be focusing in on only countywide issues here, or should we be focusing in on issues that are going on in local cities and neighborhoods even? See if I can get my slide to move here. Here we go. So some of the activities that you guys could do currently participate in or could potentially participate in are, well, receiving presentations from staff. That's a big part of, I think this group is really informing you about what is going on at the authority. That helps you better fulfill your role, to know what we're doing, about our projects, our programs, new studies that we're working on. As I mentioned, are there regional or statewide topics related to transportation that you're interested in, that we haven't touched on yet? Is there anything else that we're missing? And like I said, do you want presentations on countywide stuff, or would you like a presentation on Lafayette's Safe Routes to Schools program, or their Vision Zero program, things like that? Maybe something that's going on in a local city will give you or us ideas for what could happen around the county, kind of like what Yolanda mentioned, the Walnut Creek free bus service that they've contracted out with County Connection. We don't have to just sit in this Zoom room. We've done a site visit before to Gomentum Station, where we're testing autonomous vehicles, including big rigs and personal rapid transit and things like that. We assume you may be interested in that, especially if you haven't been there before. So that's why I included it as a bullet. And it's something, as Terry Ann and I have already talked about, is getting you guys out there this fall sometime. So we're thinking maybe in October or November, we could try and arrange a tour for you guys. The only problem is as a Brown Act body, it makes it complicated. We either have to schedule our regular meeting or a special meeting at Gomentum Station and then invite the rest of the public, or we have a couple sessions where we break you guys up into a smaller group. So that's stuff, logistics that we'll deal with, but yeah, we'd love to do that again. Then maybe there's other CCTA projects or other projects around the county that you're interested in knowing more about, and maybe we could get a site visit. And maybe it's not the entire committee, maybe it's just a member and you're wondering about a project and would like a tour of the project, something like that. So, we'd like to know about that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the countywide transportation plan is about to be updated. We want you as part of to help us in our public outreach. We want, you to be kind of a conduit to the local cities so they know what we're doing in terms of our countywide plan. Because, we don't necessarily have a board member in every city. So we really do rely on you guys to, send, to bring the message to the locals. And let's see. So some more of those activities where you guys could be involved are those action plans, and you've had some involvement there. We've given you a presentation. Member Hurley asked for a gave a presentation to his I think it's the Transportation Committee down in San Ramon. So we're always willing to educate, whether it's in this room or at your local council or local advisory committees that you may serve on. As I mentioned, the countywide transportation plan, there's going to be a lot of public outreach as part of that, and we'd like to involve you in that. I had mentioned the accessible transportation plan. If you'd like to be involved in that, there's a stakeholder group. They have meetings. If that's something you're passionate about, accessible transportation for seniors, then that might be a good forum for you. You could attend as a member of the CAC and provide your input. And then just our public education efforts in general. We're always trying to educate the public on new things, whether it's Vision Zero or Safe Routes to Schools or different things going on around the county. So we just did as an agency participated in the I'm going to get it wrong, Tinkers for Thinkers. Anyway, it's Terry and I probably got that wrong. But we're constantly working with the local.
You're close.
Was that close?
I think it was Tinkers and Thinkers, or
Thinkers and Thinkers.
Yeah.
So
you're close.
Yeah. Basically, we do a lot of outreach to our local schools, and whenever they have kind of STEM related events, we like to participate. As volunteers most of the time, helping these schools out with their programs, and we bring our transportation technology to those. We bring our autonomous shuttles or different ways, videos and different things we have to share what we're doing, and those have been super popular. I guess the Tinkers and Thinkers one was really popular. I think it was 2 weekends ago at the Pleasant Hill Library. But we've also been involved in other STEM events and forget what those things are where the kids build robots. It's really cool. Anyway, so yeah, there's lots of opportunities for you guys to be involved in what we're doing. And then another thing that we'd like to see, maybe more activity with the CAC members, is really that being a liaison to your city. If there's things going on in your city that we need to know about, we'd like you to tell us, but we'd also like you to share what's going on at CCTA with your city. If it's like I mentioned, at those kind of advisory committees, or even if you're giving a report to your council once a year as the CAC member, just to kind of let them know what's going on at CCTA. And it goes both ways, whether there's things going on at CCTA that they need to know about, or vice versa. We want that interaction. And you've probably seen the item at the end of our agenda. That's the reports where in the past we've had CAC members who attend either the planning committee or the projects committee or the authority board and report out on what happened at the authority board, or report out at those meetings to this committee. We haven't had someone do that in a while, since Member Smith from Brentwood, who retired a few years back. But he used to attend every authority meeting and do a written report. If that's something you're interested in doing, please talk to staff. We can, try and help you out there. If you're just looking for Terry Ann's, meeting summary from authority board, and you can go off, and that's enough for you to go off of, because it's a time commitment. Luckily, you can still tune in over Zoom to our authority meetings. But if that's something you're interested in, let us know. And I think that's all I had to share. I just wanted to kind of give you some ideas on how you guys could participate in CCTA activities. But really what we want to know tonight is how you'd like to participate, what goals, priorities you have for being here, and how we can support that. So I'm going to try and screen share, and I'll turn it back over to the chair.
So thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. Claire, I see your hands up. So if you have questions or comments, please.
I do. Thank you. Thanks for broaching this, Chair Ash, and thanks, Matt, for putting something together for us to think about. I have a couple thoughts. One is logistics. Are you saying, like, you, by which I mean CCTA staff, could come to, say, a local bike ped committee meeting?
Yes.
Am I?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was just at one this quarterly. Would you want us to then attend, like, officially as a CAC member, as opposed to, I was just there as a member of the public?
Sorry, was this a CCTA meeting or
No, this was a local
meeting?
Concord BPAC, but going with what you were saying about
So
delaying
I mean,
information.
I would say, depending on why you're there, whether you could represent yourself as just a member of the public, but if you think there's a tie into CCTA, feel free to represent yourself as a member of the Citizens Advisory Committee. If it's got any tie into transportation and then I don't see why you couldn't.
Just don't commit $1 billion in funding.
Yes.
Right. Right. Yeah, that'll be the day when BPAC sees that. Okay. So, for example, this last BPAC, there was a round of OBEG grant applications. So I guess that would be something you would be interested in knowing about, or projects and that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And then my other question that I'm kind of wrestling with is, how much teeth do we have as a committee? I mean, we all want our local jurisdictions to get their Measure J money, but reviewing some of these plans, it's hard to, there's some good things in with some not so great things, and it's hard to, approve money when, like Member Hurley was saying, well, here's 400 new single family housing units, but we have a new bus route. Like, it's just, I'm not sure how much teeth or gradations, if you will, that we can exercise in our role as committee members.
That's a great question. Like as I mentioned earlier, your primary role and kind of your statutorial, is that the right word, role is to review the 20 checklists and recommend their approval or not to the board, so that the cities can get their return to source funds. And yeah, you're right. No one wants to tell the cities no.
What happens if we
yeah.
feel one is inaccurate
Mhm.
and or incomplete and we decide to either table it or vote no?
So that's certainly within your purview. If you have questions about something that's in one and you don't feel comfortable approving it, you can certainly postpone the vote and ask for more information from the staff person. If you see a checklist and you're concerned that it is out of compliance, I mean, to be upfront, I've told you guys this before. When I first get the checklist from the cities, I try and make sure that it is ready for prime time and there's no real issues with it. But that being said, I'm making sure they meet the basic requirements of the growth management program. If you think there's things that they're barely cutting it and they should be doing more, please feel free to tell them. If you don't feel comfortable telling them to their face in a public meeting, we can write a letter to the city manager from this committee, expressing that you're concerned with their approach to meeting the requirements of the growth management program. I can't say that, that we would not pay their funds, if they are truly in compliance. But if you think they're skirting, some of the requirements and maybe taking an easy way out or something, I'm not saying that cities do that, but if that is something you think they are doing, you can talk to me about it. We can, and if it is an issue, that can be part of the recommendation that goes to the planning committee and the board. You can say, we approve this checklist. However, I don't want to say anything specific, but whatever your concern is, that can go along with the recommendation. So I think there's a few different ways you guys can either directly or indirectly, address, whether you feel they are truly, compliant with the spirit of the GMP, whether or not they're technically compliant or not. So yeah, I mean, you that is your main role, and I want you to take it seriously. I don't want you to just accept what people put, and just accept it that it's, that it is what they should be doing. Because especially if you represent that city and you feel like, this doesn't reflect your city, then that's certainly some, and you guys as the CAC members can always talk directly to your city staff who are preparing the checklist, and make sure that they are, fully documenting the city's activities, because sometimes it's just staff doesn't know what to put in the checklist. So they just put the basics, and they're really not capturing those things that a city is doing to implement the growth management program. Are they implementing the action plans and not documenting that's the main, I think that's one of the main questions in the checklist, is what are you doing to locally implement your applicable action plan, the Central County Action Plan or the West County Action Plan. Sometimes I really have to tell them to beef that section up, and sometimes it just really doesn't reflect what the cities are doing. And if your city is doing something, we want to give them credit for it. So yeah, there's several ways I think we can really add teeth to what you're doing there, and maybe it's not a veto power, but
we can follow up and kind of fine tune some things that maybe need to be beefed up.
Yeah, and if you see a checklist in the packet and I encourage you to look at it, early. So if you have questions that you'd like city staff to be ready to ask, and because sometimes you guys have seen this, you see the checklist, and then when the city staff member comes in to present to you guys, you throw a question at them and they're not ready to answer it. Either it's not their department, or they're just, they just don't have the answers. If there's something you're looking for and you want an answer, like a number or a policy or this or that, let me know and I will make sure they come in ready to answer that. So, because it's always nice that we follow up, a week after the meeting and get you the answer you need, but it's better to have staff member ready at the meeting to provide a complete answer.
Be prepared. Okay, thanks.
Great, thanks. Bill from San Ramon.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak up here. Pleasant Hill is just getting ready to renew their general plan. It's been almost 20 years. They just went through a long series of GPAC meetings. And I can say they didn't take any shortcuts. They took their job very serious when it came to transportation. Pleasant Hill, like the rest of the cities in Contra Costa County, are challenged with creating new housing. And they take it very serious in trying to take in transportation plans, traffic, and biking and pedestrian safety and access in that plan. One of the things that motivated me to want to get involved with the advisory board was I wonder what incentive the county is able to provide to force intra-city cooperation when it comes to pedestrian walkways and biking paths. So there's some congruent, what's the word I'm looking for here? So that there's a good transition between cities, yes.
Sorry, Chair Ashton, do you want to answer that?
I was going to say, I think this has come up before, so.
Yeah. I was going to say, I know Chair Ash is interested in this one. So I think that's where the action plans come in. The action plans are designed to, well, they're sub-regional. So, there's a central county action plan, and the role or the central county stakeholders, the 5 cities in the county, their role is to develop these action plans together, collaboratively. And in this new plan, for the first time, we've required that they not just have roadway routes of regional significance that they're addressing, but they have multimodal routes of regional significance, so that they have bike and ped routes and they have transit routes. So as part of the action plan development, they've had to identify these regionally important facilities and then apply objectives, goals and objectives, performance measures, and then projects to achieve those objectives to each of those facilities. So like in Central County, that would be, the Iron Horse Trail and the Canal Trail on the bike ped side. I think those are the 2 facilities they picked because they're regional in nature. And basically they're coming up with a whole set of objectives for those, and then projects that can be implemented to achieve those objectives. And something that Chair Ash has suggested through this group that we're kind of incorporating into the action plans is lighting of these things and kind of trail wide treatment. So it's not just wide in one area, narrow in another, and lit in one area, not in another, but some kind of consistencies across jurisdictional lines for these facilities. And it goes for transit and for roadways. So I think that's where CCTA is trying to address that through that's part of the growth management program, is getting neighboring jurisdictions to work together, and then to make sure that upstream development isn't negatively impacting those facilities. yeah, I think we're headed there. But it's still up to the local jurisdictions to implement those goals and objectives. So that's where they're supposed to demonstrate that through the checklist that they have been doing this, that they have been locally implementing the action plan. So that's one area where we can hold them to that, especially if you feel like they're not doing that. But it sounds like Pleasant Hill is on the right track. And I think it's important now that a lot of the cities are updating their general plans, and especially their housing policies. I think it's good timing with CCTA updating its countywide plan kind of at the same time as all these other plan updates.
Matt, just for clarification, the 5 central cities that have to participate, so I'm assuming Pleasant Hill, then 1, what are those 5 that you referenced?
This is a quiz. So it's Central County is Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill, Concord, Clayton, Martinez, and then the unincorporated.
Okay, thanks.
And
Okay,
the transit agencies are also part of those action plan developments because they're involved as stakeholders.
all right. San Ramon, Mr. Hurley.
Thanks, Jared. One of the things I wanted to add to this conversation is the kind of the talk you and Yolanda had going back and forth about, hey, we want to see, Yolanda wants to see more intra-city transit in Lafayette, and where you said, hey, Walnut Creek's doing this. I think that's where, Matt, you were talking about, what do we want to talk about, just countywide or local? I think that's an opportunity where, we see, hey, we have this challenge in our city. What's everyone else doing? Or you or one of the members see that this city's doing this thing well, bringing that to the committee, because other, I might not know what's going up in Martinez or somewhere else in the county that they're doing something well that we can take to our city. And just to add to the bike ped consistency conversation, the other thing we've got to figure out is education for users in this, not just the lighting, the structure, infrastructure. I ride Iron Horse from San Ramon to Dublin every day, and it's like a video game dodging people sometimes because just trail knowledge, use, etiquette, it's just not there. So that's something we need to kind of add, I think, to the programs.
Yeah, great point.
Terry Ann, can we get him a brochure on trail etiquette, please? So he learns the rules of the trail. Trying to lighten these. Michael.
Yeah, so the question is, kind of what is our role, what it could be, what it should be. I appreciate the background that there's a statutory piece around the GMPs. I have to say those feel very technical, tactical, and a lot of people have put a lot of effort into them. And I'm not sure at the end of the day that I add a lot of value by the time they get to me. It feels like this group should be more strategic. Like, what's the big picture? Well, where is the county going? How does the county fit in with the other counties? And as a group of stakeholders, we could bring some different perspectives in to some of those discussions. And that feels like, when you think of an advisory committee, you're seeking the advice of folks who sit on that committee. And it feels like we should be more in the strategic side of things than the detailed technical pieces. At the end of the day, I don't feel like I add a lot of value looking at a 200-page checklist that a bunch of other people have already had a very close look at. But I do think there may be topics like, what is the thoughts around the 237? That's an interesting bit of road that even for someone in South County, if that decongests the 580 and potentially the 680, there's a lot of moving parts around that. And so, that's one that I was a little surprised that got almost no mention at any of our meetings that I can recall, and would have thought something as on the highway transit side of things, something as significant as that would have actually been something we'd have had a bit of airtime regarding. So that would be my suggestion, is what can we do to evolve this to be more strategic than tactical?
That's a good point. We can't get away from that technical component, but I do think you're right. We could add value to this committee by having those types of strategic discussions. We are an advisory committee. The only thing we're required to advise the board on is on the GMP compliance. However, we can advise them on anything we'd like. Whether they decide to listen or not is up to them, but that doesn't stop us. They all put you in this position because it's all your city representatives who are on our board. So we assume they're interested in what you guys have to say. So I think that is a great idea, that we could have some real strategic conversations in this room and deliver, a summary or a memo to the board with your input on the direction of CCTA and Contra Costa County. So yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think just as staff, we need to find out a way to facilitate that for you. Something we'll think about.
Yolanda?
Yeah, thanks, Jarrett. Two things. Number one, rather than mentioning what city precisely, but in the past, you might remember, Matt, we have denied approval of certain cities. So they shall remain anonymous. We won't say. Very difficult to do. One city in particular didn't care, as far as I remember, but the others do. So we have that opportunity. But again, that's a very uncomfortable thing. What we have had in the past is we've had a subcommittee that reviews the checklist prior to bringing it to the entire group, so that those tough questions and the things that we need to look at have been done by a group of maybe 3 or 4 of our particular membership. So we may want to look at doing that again. And the second thing that I would like for our Board of Supervisors to come in and give us an overview of what their plans are for their particular district. And I think we have 7 districts off the top of my head. I can't remember.
Say at least 5.
10? Yeah. So this is an election year. I've been speaking to a couple of supervisors who are running, and I've gotten their input as to a big picture. I'm not talking about them getting into the minutia, but just a big picture of where they see transportation and how that fits into the other little, not so little, but the other components of keeping this area vital and moving forward. So that's pretty much what I'd like to see that. And as far as reporting back to City Council, I have to say that I really got a pass for the years that I've been on here, because Don Tatson was on the board. So I let him go to the City Council meeting and report out. Why would I go and stay there till 12 at night? Let him do that. So so I got a pass. I'm not going to get a pass anymore because he's no longer on the board. But I think it's important for us to get at least 10 minutes at a City Council meeting, just for them to remember that they've got a citizen who is representing them, oh yeah, let's keep them informed.
Thank you, Member Vega. And I wanted to go
The
back to whose question was that? That was, I think, Michael's question about 239. So I think we presented that topic to this group probably right before you came on. We have a member who hasn't been here in a while from Byron who constantly asks us to agendize it. So I think we'll probably bring it back before too long. And we're in the middle of the environmental document on that, so we should have some information for you.
I'm going to call on Judd and then Ed, so you guys weigh in on this too. Before I do that, is everybody else, I know everybody's appointed from their city, but does everybody else serve on a city committee? Like, I know I'm on Walnut Creek Transportation, Ed is on Clayton Planning. Does everybody else have another tie-in? Bill does.
I'm on our housing advisory committee now. I used to be on the transportation advisory.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to be on the Circulation Commission. I'm no longer on it.
I do not, Jared.
Okay. Just wondering if there's like an internal reporting, right? Like you might not actually, right? Michael, I guess forget's not the right word, but did you ever give staff an update with the city or anybody with the city an update of what's going on here?
That has not happened as of yet in Danville.
Yeah.
I've been here now a year and I've yet to be asked. I'd be happy to do it, but have not been asked by the city council for that.
So Matt, before I go to Judd and Ed, I know the board represents, I think, almost every city with an elected official, but is there some role where we should be reporting and how to best do that at different levels? For me, it might be more obvious because I have 5 minutes for reporting on our agenda at transportation, but it sounds like a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I think it's different in each city, whether they, draw from at large or whether they, whether you're representing a committee on this committee. I can't give you a good answer offhand. Maybe Terry Ann and I can think about it if there's a way that we can provide contact. Well, I don't know if we provide contact to your city clerk or send them a note saying, because I think there may be some language in those bylaws that talk about that sort of liaison relationship. So maybe if there is, we can point that out to the city clerks and make sure they're aware that, you guys should at least be given the opportunity.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, Ed, you want to go next then?
Yeah, and I'll be quick, but the thing is that I don't even report that often locally. And the thing is, I think that you probably have the right arrangement where you are, in the sense of, city council meetings are long. God, they're long. And everybody's, dreading that someone's going to get up and take their 3 minutes, just one more person, right? So what I do think is great about your arrangement, and then I'm going to pair it with something else, is, sometimes we learn things in these meetings that have great details. And if we can crunch it down to a one-pager and then talk to the mayor, city council, city manager to get it where once a month or something, you can come in there and agendize that, in the sense of just get it on there almost as a like a routine perfunctory thing. You check that one pager in as you're reading for the city council, and they'll read that prior to the meeting. Mm-hmm. So then when you come up there, all you have to do is say, yeah, I submitted my report to you this month. Just, the big concerns were about this thing and that thing. And that's, in a sense, all you really need to say. And you say, if the staff or if the council has any questions about the summary that I presented, specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time. There you go. And then, 90% of the time, you're probably going to get like one question. Someone will say, oh, you mentioned this, da, da, da. And then it's done. But in that sense, you've elevated the visibility of transportation within the council, and you keep it at the forefront of their minds. Sorry I talked so long, but there you go.
Thanks.
That's great. Judd?
I hadn't actually raised my hand, but I would like to return to this discussion about the bylaws and the growth management plan and so forth. The growth management plan doesn't appear in the bylaws anywhere. So that expectation must derive from some other document. And I would find it very helpful to get a better, more complete description of the expectations of the board with respect to what they really are looking for from the CAC.
Okay, we'll look into that. Thank you.
It is in the ordinance 0605, which I also will be sending to you. It talks about it in the now therefore be it ordained section. There's a section 4 on growth management compliance checklist review subcommittee, which is probably what Member Vega was referring to that used to happen. But I will get this. This is also being sent to you. I've already prepared an email with it on there. So
Great.
back to shortly.
Thanks, Terry-Ann.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, but by the way, I have checked in fairly often with the city manager and the members of our engineering division to make sure that something that I've seen and heard in the CAC is understood and the city staff's aware of it. And I've informally mentioned some of these things to the city council members as well, but I haven't done actually any formal meetings with the council.
I think just having those conversations are good. Yeah, whether we present to the council or not, I think that's up to each individual, but I think talking to your city staffs is always good.
And I'll just share mine, which are no surprise to at least Matt. I want to see some CCTA, and if our committee can have a role in some multiple jurisdiction coordination player, right? So I've talked about Ignacio Road, Valley Road, which becomes Kirker Pass, right, as a major artery between 4 jurisdictions. And I've been having some conversations with the Shadelands PBID, and more of their members than take that bus from the BART are actually coming through that pass over Kirker Pass and are coming from Antioch and Brentwood and all of that. And so, getting 5 cities together to have a conversation, even if CCTA is not solving it, even if once a quarter they're bringing those people together, and if that's somehow us involved, great. I think that's important, because then the cities are sort of at least talking forcibly to each other. And I'm going to hit up the pathway lights again. And I've also learned recently about affordable solar lighting that does not require electrical infrastructure to light those paths, like 10-year solar battery street lights that can do that. And I really think this starts, I was talking to Smidar, the traffic engineer of Walnut Creek. It really starts by bringing everybody together, because East Bay Parks says it's somebody else's district. PG&E has a role in it, which actually, if we could use the lights that don't require electrical infrastructure, great. But I think if you look at it as pathways to public transit, that you're coordinating multiple jurisdictions into BARTs and identify 3 to 5 pilots throughout the county. I think that's a role that I would love to see us have and do. And yes, I'm excited about Momentum, and maybe if we invite other people together, I don't know, some of the city staff or some of the committees that we're all on within our cities, maybe that gets us around it. So I just appreciate everybody giving this input today. Thanks, Matt, for leading us in this discussion.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Terry, do I go into the request for public comment? Okay, do we have
Yes.
any, is any member of the public here and would like to speak? Please raise your hand virtually or physically.
We have no written or verbal comments.
Okay. Is the next item the reports then?
It is, would you like to go back to the consent item now that we have a quorum?
Yes, am I allowed just to do that?
Yeah, we can go back to that and call for a motion and, well, public first ask the committee members if they have any comments on them, and then we can go to public comment and then a motion.
Okay, so the public comment is for, so I'm under 2?
Yeah,
Okay.
3, sorry. Consent
Okay.
calendar.
Are there any comments or, so we're on your agenda, we're looking at the consent calendar, A, Citizens Advisory Committee Summary of Actions, and then Citizens Advisory Committee Attendance Log. Are there any comments or changes from the committee? Okay. Have we, Terry, have we received any public comment?
No written or verbal public comment.
Great. If anyone would like to, so then do I have to read the next part? Okay, do I have a motion on these?
I'll motion to approve consent calendar as is.
Great. Do we have a second? Judd? Terry Ann, please conduct a roll call vote.
Okay, Member Bankert,
Yes.
member, let's see, Carr,
Aye.
member Hammond,
Aye.
member Hurley,
Aye.
member Miller,
Aye.
member Vega, member Vega. Aye. Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Vice Chair Linder,
Aye.
Chair Ash.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously with 8 members, and we have member Bristow, Chahal, Esquivel, Moriarty, Powells, and Rosenberg absent.
For clarification purposes, can we just, if it's on consent, do we have to do a roll call vote, or can we opt for anonymous approval?
Yeah, in this environment with Assembly Bill 361 and the hybrid or the virtual meetings, we do have to do roll call votes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so we're skipping back. Okay, we are under item number 5, reports. Does anyone have a summary of reports of the CCTA meetings in September?
If there are no member comments, I just have a brief comment. Just wanted to give you an update that the authority board at their meeting in September on the 21st did approve for virtual meetings for the committees to remain through October. So we'll be reevaluating this again at the October 19th meeting. As you know, it's we have to reevaluate it every 30 days, and it's going to be based off of the Contra Costa Health Services recommendation. So we're following whatever basically they're putting out. It's all speculation, but we kind of see maybe January being a return to a hybrid meeting where we would ask the members to attend in person. But as you know, we are at the beck and call of a 30-day reconsideration in the county health, so it could definitely change before then, but kind of just our thoughts of when it might happen. So October will remain the same. I'll let you know for November, December.
Great. I appreciate that. Okay, so we're on to the next item on the agenda is member and staff comments. Oh, you skipped ahead.
I'm sorry.
Do any of the committee members or staff have anything they would like to share?
Yeah, I have something I want to share. I just want to plug a book I read recently that's right up our alley. No, this isn't going to work. Yeah, here it is. Country of Cities by Bishan Chakrabarty. He most recently was the dean of environmental design at UC Berkeley, no longer there, but again, A Country of Cities. It's a good book, quick read, speaks to the transportation housing challenges we have around the Bay Area.
Did anybody else have a comment, question? Would anyone from the public like to speak? Please raise your hand.
We have no written or verbal comments, but Member Vega does have a comment.
Please. You're on mute still.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Thank you. Who's the author of the book?
Bishan Chakrabarty. See if I
Oh,
can-
that's easy. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, on to item 7. Correspondence and communication. We had a press release in the, was there something else? Did I miss something?
Nope.
No, okay. We had a press release in the packet announcing the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, visit to the Gomentum Station, which we were not invited to, the groundbreaking vehicle testing facility in the East Bay. Staff, does anybody have, staff, any comments on that or any information to share?
I'll just say we're sorry we didn't get to invite everybody. There was a very limited invite list, but he enjoyed himself in Concord and at the Gomentum Station, and supposedly was still talking about it 2 weeks later. So Contra Costa left an impression on him, which is good.
Nice. That was really good, and great to have him here and in our county and learning about what we offer here. And hopefully he got stuck in traffic there on the way to the airport, so he knows what we're facing. The next item on the agenda is the future agenda item log. Didn't I just, am I supposed to do something there? Sorry, Terrian.
You can, we kind of already talked about this under the second regular agenda item, but if there's any future agenda items that anyone would like to discuss at a future meeting, if you have anything else to add beyond that item.
Okay, seeing none, I'll keep going. If anyone from the public would like to speak and raise your hand, do we have any members of the public still, written or verbal?
I lost sound.
No public comment. Member, was that Linder? Did you want to say something? Looks like no further comments.
Member Linder, if it was for a future agenda item, you can always shoot me an email. We can't get you your voice.
Okay. Just waiting to see if she commented. Okay, I think that concludes our meeting. Yes? This meeting is adjourned at 7:47 p.m. Thank you all for your patience tonight and participation.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.